I'm too big for it. Okay. Better. Hello. Hey. How's it going? One of the things that made me really fall in love with Sweden, that made me realize that this is where I want to be long term, 4 distinct seasons. Now, if you've watched any other Swedish YouTube channel over the past couple of months, chances are you've heard, oh, spring came unusually early this year compared to most other years, which it did. And here I am, a Brit, just finding it so cool that you can even tell where one season ends and another one begins. Now, maybe it seems a bit silly for those of you who have 4 seasons consistently, but we who grew up in England and Ireland, we don't really get seasons. We get glimpses of seasons throughout the year, but then we quickly revert back to the typical grey, wet, monotonous, soggy mashed potato weather. Mashed potato? I have no idea why I said mashed potato, but we'll run with it. It sounds good. But here in Sweden, especially where I live in Värmland, it's a completely different experience. Like, I feel that I actually get to appreciate each season for the uniqueness it offers. And although there are outliers, each season is pretty consistent. It stays around for just the right amount of time before you start to get tired of the same old, and then Mother Nature just goes and drops another banger season. Stupid. It's motivating, it really is. And now, as I'm sure you can tell, we are well into spring and fast tracking into summer, which is basically when everything comes alive. And I'm sure you can tell that I'm definitely feeling that energy right now. I'm not on anything, I promise. But no, it's really nice. What's the weather like where you guys are from? Are you getting 4 seasons, or are you just getting the one like I'm used to? Yeah, would love to know. But enough chit chat about the weather. We're going to be productive today. So, since we last talked, I got cracking with a few things here and there. First things first, I wanted to make sure that we didn't have any bats in the attic this year so I could get started on some of the much needed renovations. So I decided to make a bat house. I'm hoping they like it, but just in case, I'm going to make another one and place it in a different location because there might be a bit too much sun in this direction. I'm not too sure. Then we started with the growing season. We have extra frames here now in the front garden. We've been using the bokashi and manure from our neighbours. I mean, they're animals, not... Anyway, we're going to be expanding our growing season this year, and you'll be following along if we're lucky. Then in order to maximise our gardening potential, we got this. Shit. Right now, I'm listening to the amazing advice from you guys and just taking it easy. This is, after all, a forever home and not just a YouTube project with a deadline. So that's been amazing advice. It's something I have to remind myself about a lot and try my hardest to respect, lest I burn out completely. But there's a very important Swedish word that comes to mind, and that's lagom. Now, I don't think there's a direct English translation, at least not one that's so intertwined with, I guess, culture or lingo in the way that lagom is to Swedish culture. But it basically means not too much, not too little, just right. Goldilocks. It's the Goldilocks song. And so that's a concept that we're just going to remember for this video. We're going to keep it lagom. We're going to keep it Goldilocks, moderation. Nice. So, for this video, I've set out a few tasks that have been gnawing at me for quite some time and I just really want to get done. Here's what we're going to get started on. First up, I need to dig a potato bed, and in order to do this, I need to pull up a lot of roots. You'll see that in a bit. Up next, remove the scrapyard. So we have just a pile of junk at the bottom of our garden from previous owners of the house. It's been annoying us for a long time, but it's always taken a backseat. Next up, build the bat house. Now, I built a bat house and I've hung it up, but I'm not entirely sure it's in the right location. So I just want to build another one and put it in another location. And somewhat tied to this, I want to try and see if the bats are using the bat house by installing the wildlife camera right by it and looking for motion. Nice. And then finally, we have Nordic floor treatment. So I want to take one of the floors in the house and treat it in a traditional Nordic fashion using linseed oil soap and see what the effect is. Now Thursday is what we call a red day here in Sweden. It's a bank holiday or a public holiday, and I've taken off Friday, which gives me a rare 4-day stretch without any noise, just space. And to be honest, I really need that right now. It feels like I've been spinning my wheels for quite a while, and I've fallen back into the habit of just, trying to get everything done at once and then inevitably getting nothing done because nobody can get everything done at once. And at the same time, there's like 1,000 half-finished thoughts in my head that I just really want to figure out. So yeah, but now I'm choosing to slow down. Just a handful of clear tasks, no rushing, no multitasking, just us out in nature in the quiet, doing things with intention. Sounds really nice. Nice. Now there was a little more to the potato beds than simply digging a hole in the ground. All over the back of the garden you can see these little shoots. They're absolutely everywhere, and they are a result of damaged or dying trees that are sprouting roots out of stress in the hopes to survive even if the main trunk dies. We think that this tree is the main culprit, but it could be any one of the countless stumps in the garden. Pretty grim, which is why I want to eventually get rid of all these little suckers and make this part of the garden a little more inviting. But for now, I wanted to focus on just the area where the potato bed will go. So I got started digging up and pulling out all the roots, apparently looking like every 90s American TV show bully ever.
Oh, wow. Oh. Oh! It came off faster than I was expecting, but look at that. Oh, look at that root. Wow!
Cool. Come on.
Oh. Grab the root that's stuck there. Okay, it's not even stuck. Wow.
Come on. Oh, you're trapped here.
Yeah. Oh god.
There you go.
Now I started pulling up these roots last weekend, and it was not a fun task. I'd say you can probably tell from my facial expressions that it was difficult, but I've got a habit of making this face for even the simplest of tasks. Just take my word for it. Either way, I managed to pull out most of the roots and move them to our designated compost area, where we will shred them down using something usable via a composting mill, or kompostkvarn in Swedish. And now we're caught up with each other, ready to dig up the bed. Let's get you up in the air. When it came to choosing the location for a potato bed, we were initially thinking somewhere here in the corner. Unfortunately, it gets quite damp here, a bit too wet for good potato land. But just over here, actually, is much less damp and is still making good use out of the back of the garden. And it also means that we can extend a little further if we want to in the future. So this is where we start. I got working using a spade to cut the ground into little Minecraft blocks so they would be easier to dig up. Here's a shot of me looking like a member of Backstreet Boys from Timu. But in all seriousness, I wasn't expecting it to be quite as physically demanding as it ended up being. I know it doesn't look like much at the moment, but now this whole area has been turned into little squares, which I'm going to try and use a pitchfork to kind of turn over now. This is good shit. I got myself a little work buddy. He hasn't left in ages. We're gonna have some fun. Unfortunately, Jiminy was but a brief companion. He didn't really like the idea of manual labor. Anyway, I carried on turning over cubes of soil to try and kill the grass underneath, until I was told that isn't the best of ideas. Change of plan. So, there are too many roots in the ground, so instead of flipping over the soil, we're actually having to take out the soil, or the top level of it anyway, which is proving a bit more difficult than I thought. Yeah, and then we'll figure out where to put the soil afterwards. Hopefully we can get it done by today. Fingers crossed. I got back to business, righting the mistakes I had spent good time making, and completely removing the soil cubes, placing them onto the side. Maria even came to help, which was awesome. You can tell it's getting dark, but I did manage to remove all the soil by the end of the day, so I was feeling it pretty accomplished. It's a new day. We did a lot of work yesterday. I'm pretty proud of how much was done. I can definitely feel it in my body, absolutely. And today's not going to be as sunny and beautiful as yesterday. It's going to be overcast with a bit of rain, but we're going to work with it. The birds are still out. It's still pretty. I showed this bed to Meria and she did approve, but she said that it needs to be more parallel. The reason that she needs it to be more or less parallel is because the potatoes need to be spaced out. They're going to be in lines, and they need to be spaced out around 60 centimeters apart from each other. So it would be kind of weird if there's not enough space at the bottom of the bed in order to do that. So we're going to do that. And then we have a bunch of mud all around here that needs to be taken somewhere else because I don't like the look of it. Maybe it would be good eventually for a new greenhouse so that it doesn't blow away. Who knows? Let's get started. For the past 2.5, maybe 3 hours, I've just been moving slabs of mud from one place to the other, and frankly it's getting boring. I'm not used to only having one job at a time. So I've done 3 sides. I'm going to wait to do the 4th, but in the meantime I figured if Maria wants a geometric potato bed, then the lady will get a geometric potato bed. With meticulous detail, I have now framed the potato bed. It better be geometric enough, I swear to God. There's a bit here where there are way too many roots, so I've made a little indent here, and then we have more frame. I think Mary is going to be pleased. Let's find out. Hey Bob, do you mind coming out here a second? So, feeling fairly proud of myself, I decided to get Meria to come outside to review my handiwork. She didn't say much, she just made the shape of an L on her forehead and left, which is usually understood as, that's right, lagom, the ultimate compliment to come from a Swede.
Thank you, älskling.
Varsågod.
We're gonna get a lot of potatoes.
Oh, we are.
We're gonna get potatis.
By midsummer, that's your job now. Potato bed complete. Next project. Bat houses. Like regular houses, but with less furniture. I have no idea where I was going with that one. As many of you guys who have watched my previous videos will know, last year I had bats in my attic, which makes renovating rather difficult because, well, bats have a lot of rights in Sweden. No moving them, no disturbing them in any way, no playing loud music, of course no killing them. They have the ultimate squatter's rights, and call me old-fashioned, but I don't think any bat needs a house that big unless their name is Bruce Wayne. However, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and as bats can eat around 7,000 mosquitoes per night, I'd rather have them around. And so in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a bat house for Swedish bat species. Disclaimer, I'm a Muppet who just happens to own a few power tools, not a professional. I picked this because of the color. Yes. So, I'm going off this image here that I found on the internet, and I'll link in the description but I've added a few things myself just to make it a bit easier for me to work with. I've also made a bat house before, as you've seen previously in the video, but I'm not sure it's in the right location. There's a lot of sun throughout the day, so it feels like there's too much light and warmth. It's going to be a bat sauna more than a bat house, but because I'm not certain, I'm going to leave it up there and just make a new one and put it in a place where there's a bit more shade throughout the day. Nice. So here's what you'll need. Of course, lumber, 200 millimeters in width, around 20 millimeters in thickness, and at least 1,960 centimeters in length in order to ensure that we have enough wood to make the house. A little tip in hindsight, make sure the lumber you pick isn't too bowed. It ended up causing quite a few problems for me as we go on. We'll also need a set of appropriately sized screws and a drill or a screwdriver or something to get the screws into the wood, and then also a pencil I think is a really good idea. As optional items, some means of sanding down the wood. Nothing crazy, as bats need the rougher wood in order to have something to grasp onto, but I wanted to do the outside, and maybe you do too. Another optional item is some plant protector wire, or some chicken wire I think it's called, in order to give bats something to cling onto. I saw this in another YouTube video and I thought it was a really good idea. And then if you decide to use this wire, then a stapler and a hammer would be a really good idea in order to attach the fencing to the wood. You might have noticed that I haven't mentioned anything with which to treat the wood. From what I've read, bats try to avoid treated wood due to the smells, and for this reason I just steered clear of all treatment and I'm just going to use untreated wood. Moving on. Step 1. Measure out your wood, cut it to size. You'll need 5 pieces of lumber, each size will be on the screen. Here, it's a really good idea to label the wood just so you know which is which. Something I did afterwards was sand down the faces of the wood so that the bats didn't get any little tiny bat splinters. This is an optional step and one to avoid overdoing because bats need to be able to climb the wood. After sanding down all the pieces of wood to a reasonable degree, I took the board that I labelled side and drew a diagonal line from corner to corner. This will act as the slope that will make the entrance very small but allow for lots of party space once you get in. Using the circular saw, I cut across the line until I was left with 2 equally sized triangular pieces. But in my case, I ended up with 2 unequally sized triangular pieces, the opposite of what I was going for. No worries, I just lined up the pieces on the 2 shorter edges, marked a line for the difference, and then used the sander or sandpaper to make sure the sides were matching. Next, something that the image didn't seem to mention that I've just added, you are going to want to angle the top of the front piece of wood to 25 degrees. And this is the outcome, an angled cut so that my front face can sit on the side pieces while sitting flush with the roof as well. Now for the entrance of the bat house. The bats in Sweden are super tiny, so the opening for the bat house should only be between 15 and 25 millimeters. As you can see, I've placed the front piece on the 2 side pieces and I've measured out the opening and marked where to cut the side pieces. Then I cut the side pieces where I marked and realized that the front piece also needs to be cut or there won't be any gap at all. The simple fix, lining up the newly cut side pieces with the front piece, marking the new endpoint and cutting off the excess for the front piece of wood. Next up, we want to screw everything together, so I started with the back and the top pieces. I decided to sink the screws, but it's not necessary of course, that's just the way I like it. And then I continued with screwing the side pieces to the backboard and the roof. It's at this point where you can notice that the significant bow in my wood is going to cause a few problems for the house. The way I'm going to solve this is by adding sheep's wool to the gap. It's nothing crazy and it's something that we have a lot of. And I'm fairly sure that the bats don't hate it, so we'll see how that pans out. Now, in order to make it easier for the bats to climb up, I used this plant protector wire that you can find in garden stores such as Hemmafix or Granngården if you live in Sweden. So I cut the plant wire to size, placed it appropriately in the bat house, and then used the staple gun in order to ensure that it stays flat in place. I used the hammer in order to make sure the staples weren't extruding too far because, I don't know, maybe that could cause issues. By now you can see I've softened the edges of the wood and now I'll sand it quite fine. First using the machine with 120 grit sandpaper and then with 240 grit I believe. It makes absolutely no difference to the functionality of the house, it's purely aesthetic, so feel free to skip this step entirely. Now after making the house, I figured that the bats are only going to use it if they know that it's for bats, and so I decided to make a little sign that would let them know for sure that this is where all the cool bats hang out. I'm not going to be showing the making of this sign because, Well, it involved a lot of stupidity with a multi-tool and a lighter. I'm sure you can use your imagination. And there we have it. This is the bat house that we've just made. And yes, in order to fasten it to the house, what I'm going to do is take off this front again, drill into the backboard through the house, and then do it the same here. Again, if you're buying wood, make sure that it's not too bowed, otherwise you're going to end up with air gaps. I don't think bats like that. I know hamsters appreciate air holes, but I think bats are fine. But yeah, now to fasten it to the house, and I'll do that later on in the video.